we're going right into it. Today we're going to be talking about GALATEA. So last video we talked about Readdict, and I didn't really speak much of the app, more so just one of the particular books that was heavily advertised to me on there, and a little bit about what I knew on the app based off of my one book that I've read on there. If there's more books on Readdict you want me to read, let me know. If you want more summaries on different apps, let me know. But today we're going to be talking about GALATEA. GALATEA is a audiobook and traditional book, not traditional book, and kind of like Wattpad self-published book websites app thing. And GALATEA, this one is a subscription-based / points-based app. It looks to me like every other, again, reading app that is out there as well. It had similar interface to Readdict and Wattpad, except for the subscription service portion. So let's talk about the subscription portion a little bit, because I think this one is more interesting than Readdict, because Readdict was very straightforward. GALATEA, every author can choose how many points a chapter is worth, so how many points you need to essentially read a chapter. Okay, my lips are dry, I see it, please don't comment on it, I will put on lipstick. My Rare Beauty Grateful lipstick, love her. Okay, but essentially this is kind of the subscription based. They let you read the first maybe 3, 4, 5-ish chapters of the book for free, which is nice. So you don't have to use your points or anything. When joining the app, you get certain points for certain steps. So you get like 10 points or something for making a profile. You get 5 points for joining the Discord, 5 points for following them on Facebook, 5 points for following them on Instagram. Up to 500 points for recommending a friend to the app. So basically what that means is if you give a friend a referral code, they get 100 points to start with, and you get 100 points based on them using your referral code and getting their 100 points. And for a purchase up to $5, which is almost $5, is basically, it's $5.99 for 550 points, I believe. No, for 110 points. But you can get up to 550 points based off of your friends. So let's say your friend downloads the app and they pay for the 550 points, which I did. The things I do for you. It was $17 purchase for 550 points, which for me, it got me basically an entire book. So that book was on the lower end, thank God, to read. And so 550 points was just enough for me to basically download that entire book, to read that book, to review for you all. And basically, there's also another tier, the lower tier, which is like $2, but it gives you like 50 points, which is like a waste of anything, because that's 3 chapters. Don't do that. Don't make those bad financial decisions. Make my bad financial decision of $17 to read the whole book. Don't do what I say. Don't do what I do. Don't do it. But basically, that's the point. And then every single day on the app, you get a sign-in point. So every day that I open the app, basically, I can get like 1 point for opening the app. Points, if you want to read a chapter without using your points, you have to wait 36 hours to read the next chapter. So points are important to this app. Can you tell that? You can get 20 points by doing a 20-minute phone call with the app and giving them your review. You can get 10 points for writing a review. X, Y, and Z. You can also, even if you have the app, you can get a one-time 100-point bonus by using someone else's promo code. If you need help finding a promo code, go to GALATEA's Reddit, which is what I did, and I got 100 points by using someone else's promo code. And whoever that was, I hope you enjoyed your free 500 points from me purchasing 500 points, because you can get up to 550 points from whoever uses your promo code from them purchasing promo code not promo codes, points. So whoever that was, enjoy it. Good for you. But yeah, anyway, on this app, I didn't like that as much. Oh, also you can watch 10 videos a day that are worth 2 points each. So that's like 40 points a day. If you're someone who just can't afford to do it, you've used your one-time promo code, that's another option as well. But again, that leads you to only being able to use this app for very small quantities and probably only being able to read 2 to 3 chapters a day, which I feel like is not worth it. And then there's a subscription-based service, which is a $70 a year fee for their app, which equates to about $5.84 every month. Another option if you're someone like that. I wish they did monthly payments, because if they did monthly payments, I would have just done the monthly payment, read the book, and then cancel my subscription next month. But I think they know people would do that, and that's why they don't offer it. But that's kind of the structure of GALATEA. But when you start reading, you have the opportunity to have the audiobook. You have the opportunity to have background audio, which I found really fun. So it was like, for example, you could hear the door of the bedroom close. You can hear like the birds chirping outside the window in the morning. It's kind of adding to the atmospheric portion of the reading. So I did like that. That was kind of fun. That was kind of cute. And other than that, but let's talk about the book. The book I read was The Lycans Queen, and this is featuring Arya. I think she's supposed to be Indian, because they did this. They said like the stereotypes of Indians being doctors and engineers and stuff like this. I was annoyed by it when I was younger, but now that I'm older, I'm excited to be a doctor, and I was like, okay, thank you for the exposition. We also have Dimitri / Adonis. His name is Adonis Dimitri whatever Gray, probably, because every book someone's last name is Gray. I know someone named Gray. I'm sorry, Gray. But essentially he only lets his mate call him Adonis, but everyone else calls him Dimitri, and she's like, why? And I'm like, girl, it doesn't matter, just call man by his name. I don't know. And then the villains, there's a lot of villains, but the main one is Savannah. Just remember Savannah, and then we'll get back to all the other names, because there's a lot of other people. The story of this one, in summary before the overall book description summary, is that Arya, she loves the pack beta. They tried to be different with that one, and his name was Hunter. And before he left 4 years ago on a trip with the Alpha. What kind of trip is 4 years? And it wasn't college, guys. Trust me, it wasn't college. I promise. They shared a kiss. Also, she's 19, so to give reference, that means they were both around 15 at that point. They shared a kiss, and basically she decided, based on this kiss, they must be mates in the future, obviously, and chose to wait for him for 4 years. Man couldn't write and tell you, okay, sure. But essentially, the book starts with like him. It's like he and the Alpha. The Alpha's name is Carter, who is her best friend. He couldn't tell. I'm gonna say that a lot. But essentially, Carter and Hunter are meant to be coming back to the pack. Basically, she was really excited because in her mind, he was gonna come back. They were gonna look at each other, and they were gonna be mates. Well, no, that's not what happens. What happens basically in the book summary is that she is Dimitri, the king's mate, and the king has been without a mate for 10 years, meaning that man is older than her by some time, we'll say. And she ends up being his mate, and that's like what the book's about. But she, in the beginning, thinks that Hunter's her mate, and for some reason she loves him, even though she hasn't seen him for 4 years. They don't talk or anything, but she loves him. She sure does. And Carter steps out of the car first the alpha. He hugs people, he says hi to everyone, he goes down the line, but he stops and stands next to Arya, and I'm like, okay, sure. Make jokes, bestie vibes. And then it's not funny. Hunter steps out of the car. He holds his hand out, and a girl comes out of the car. I feel like her name is Leah or something. Yeah, it's probably like Leah or Elena or something like that. Steps out of the car, and basically she's crushed because he found his mate. And as he's going down the line, he's not giving a single care in the world to her because he's with his mate. And you know, the mate bond is strong and blah, blah, blah. Exposition. I need to stop doing that. And he goes down the line, he reaches her, he's like, hi, but in a nice way, not like in a I missed you, love you way. Girl, letters are a thing. He could have told you by letter. Your best friend could have told you by letter. You have phones in this book. You could have called each other. No, you could have FaceTimed. Anyway, she meets his mate, and she like makes a joke to his mate being like, oh, good luck taming this one or whatever, and she hates herself for making a joke because she's heartbroken, but also she needs to make the situation not awkward, and the girl doesn't even know this whole love, like she loved Hunter situation, so she's like, haha, you're funny, we should be friends, bye. And then basically they're supposed to all stay because it's like customary, but Carter like sends her home. She goes home, she cries over the man that you haven't seen in 4 years that doesn't talk to you. Anyway, essentially the next day they're supposed to be going to the King's Ball, which is a 4-hour drive. It's like me when I go to Disney. I hate myself. And basically, I cannot sometimes with my brain. Essentially, they drive, and she's like sad every time she looks out her window and she sees Hunter and his mate kissing and being lovey-dovey and whatever, and Carter's trying to make her feel better, so Carter's like, will you be my date to the King's Ball? So, you know, making her less lonely, being funny and things like that. And essentially 4 hours later they get to the hotel to get ready for the ball, and she gets to her room and she cries again over this man. Cry again. And then like her friends come over, they hug her, they try to make her feel better about the fact that he is a mate and he doesn't love her. And then they get ready. She's like, I did simple hair, simple makeup, but I looked pretty. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, you look like a princess, you look like a queen, blah, blah, blah. You look like the prettiest girl here. Some say it loud enough so Hunter can hear it and look at her. And essentially, after that, she has to ride in the car with Hunter and Hunter's mate because she's Carter's date, and the alpha and the beta have to go together. Gross. Unfortunate for her. They get to the ball, and her wolf is feeling antsy, and she doesn't know why, even though we all know that the king has no mate, and the reason he has these dances is so he can find a mate. I cannot with this girl. But essentially they get there, she sees her best friend sees that the guy that she's loved for 4 years has a mate and is pissed at him. Sure. Tries to make her feel better, says you're the prettiest girl here, so loud that Hunter and his mate look back at them. And then they go into the ball, and then she sees her cousins who are from another pack who are visiting, and magically, unsurprisingly, one of her cousins is mated to her best friend Carter, who is the alpha. Great for her. She's like, I'm so happy for them, and maybe I'm being biased, but I think they're the cutest couple ever. Also, this is me breaking off my soft gels of my cold medicine. Sorry, I need to play with my hands while I talk about this. But essentially, in the midst of them conversing, she and her best friend Sophia, who is in another pack, at the palace. I hate it. I hate it. We're talking, and essentially, they find out that the king, because if he can't find his mate, he's gonna have to marry this girl named Savannah. Because his wolf is getting out of control. But I'm like, also, wouldn't marrying someone that's not your mate not help your wolf not be out of control? Because your wolf will be pissed at you all the time. But I digress. And essentially that makes Arya's wolf really mad, but she doesn't know why her wolf's really mad. So much so that she has to run out of the ballroom before she shifts into her wolf. I don't know why I'm making these faces at these people. I wrote books like this. For those of you who haven't watched any of my others, I wrote on Wattpad 10 years ago. Like, I've written books like this. Like, this is very much things that I would have also written. So when I'm being judgmental towards these books, I'm also being judgmental towards myself. And I just want to make that clear. So please don't hate me, but if you do hate me, feel free to dislike the video. I don't know, comment down below, and we can have a discussion about it. But essentially, she almost turns into a wolf. Her friend Sophia comes to check on her. They're like, okay, are you fine? Maybe you shouldn't go back inside if you're going to shift into your wolf. And she's like, no, I'm going to be fine. It would be disrespectful to the king. Sure. But essentially, so she goes back inside, and the king comes out, and Savannah comes out with him, and she's avoiding eye contact with him. And suddenly everyone in the room is like gasping because he's sniffing the air, which is a way of being like, oh, your mate's probably in the room vibes. And she makes eye contact with him, knows that it's her mate, and immediately looks away, so he maybe won't know. But if you made eye contact, then he also knows. But essentially, since she's looking away, she doesn't see. He basically like gets down from his throne, and he comes up to her. She bolts out the door. Bolts. Girl runs. She runs. And basically he finds her, and he was like, once I find you, you'll never get away from me. Very like, wolf, king, alpha, possessiveness vibes of that. And also, I don't know why she's upset, because she was like finding your mate would be good, blah 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 blah, and like Hunter doesn't love me, blah 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 blah. And now she's upset that she found her mate because he's the king and she doesn't want to be a queen. And then she like basically says to the king like, oh, I don't want a mate. And I was like, that's not true, because yesterday you were so excited at the opportunity of being someone's mate that you were pining for 4 years for. So no, don't give me this lie that you don't want to be with him, you don't love him. Girl, you're just still heartbroken over a man who didn't even write, who didn't even call, who didn't even video chat to tell you that, hey, I met someone else. I'm sorry, that really got me. Like, why are you hung up over someone who didn't even care enough to tell you that they met someone else? But essentially the king is like, who did you love before me? And he's pissed, rightfully so. And essentially she's like, no one, blah blah blah. And then suddenly her family comes out, and her best friends come out, and her cousins come out, and they bow. And she's like, I hate this, I don't want my family to bow to me, I don't want to be the queen, blah 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 blah. And then essentially the king's like, we need to have like our first couple dance or whatever. So he takes her inside, he takes her upstairs, not upstairs, he takes her up the stairs to where the thrones are. And Savannah, the villain girl, is upset. She's like, Adonis, how could you embarrass me like that, blah blah blah. And he was like, only my mate gets to call me that, period. And essentially he sits down, and he has her sit down, and then he talks to his people to kick Savannah off the stage. Bye. And then he's like, I want to introduce you to important people of my life. Basically his best friends, Evan, Luke, which is her best friend Sophia's mate. Evan is her other cousin's mate, which they don't tell us in the book until very, very much later. And who else is there? Gabe, his second in command, Beta, I don't know, future, I don't know, substitute king. His mate, Leah. So many Leahs. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. That's who she meets. And then he goes to meet her family, and everyone, and then her pack is basically surrounding her, congratulating her. And for once, she turns around, and then she sees for the first time that Hunter is staring at her like he's in love with her. Hunter is the guy that she was in love with like yesterday, and to her, now that she's a mate, it makes her feel uncomfortable rather than wanted. Cool for her. And but she notices when she's looking around that Adonis / Dimitri is not there. So she basically tries to go and find him. When she finds him, it's basically he's outside and Savannah's trying to like convince him to be with her, which makes her upset that he's talking to her, but also it's not like he chose to talk to her. She approached him, and basically she was about to like go back inside and like go home because she's so upset that he's talking with the girl that he was engaged to be queen with like 5 minutes ago. And he's like, don't leave, and he tells Savannah to leave, and so she's like angry and she leaves, and she's like, how dare you call him by his first name? And like Adonis is like, because she's my mate and only my mate can call me my first name, so get out and you can't call me that. Cool. I hate the way I talk about these things. But essentially she basically accidentally blurts out that she was in love with someone else yesterday. And he's pissed, rightfully so. And he's like, who is he? Like, you gotta tell me. Maybe that's why she doesn't want to tell you, sir, because you're immediately. And essentially, in the midst of the argument, her mom comes out, and her mom's like, you guys need to go have your first dance as a couple, king, queen. And in doing so, they go inside, they start dancing. He's leading because, haha, she doesn't know how to dance well. And then as she's like dancing with him, she looks across the room, and guess who she looks at? Hunter. And Hunter is staring her down. Hunter is pissed. And as she's staring at the man that she loved like yesterday, Dimitri / Adonis looks, and he's like, what are you looking at? And she was like, nothing. And so he also looks. He sees who she's looking at and who is looking at her. He gets very angry. He basically runs across the room, slams this guy on the ground like he wants to kill him. And she's like, I hate this man. He's so possessive. How dare he? And I was like, kind of justified. Again, I kind of just justify him most of the time while I read this book. Which is kind of bad. I should not be doing this. But also, the sides I am choosing between aren't the best. Because girl don't make sense. She don't make sense. And essentially she gets pissed that he does that. So she's like, I don't want to stay here with him. I want to go back home. And he's like, you can't go home. And she's like, I want to go home. I want to pack my own clothes. I want to be back home. And so he's like, okay, you can go home for 2 days, but in 2 days I'll come pick you up. And you are going to come back to the palace because you're the future queen, and we're going to be mates. Got it. Makes her upset, but he does send back her best friend Sophia with her mate Luke, because Luke is one of the guards at the palace. And when they get back, she goes to her room immediately. She's crying, she's upset. Hunter's acting weird. Hunter suddenly loves her. Sure. And Carter's like, bro, get a grip. No. And 2 days packing, whatever. Then she goes to say her final goodbyes. The limo for the palace arrives. When it arrives, guess who's not there? Her mate. She's upset. She's like, he didn't even come pick me up. He doesn't even care about me. He's the king. That was the only thing in my head when she was like, how dare he, like she was so upset he wasn't there. And I was like, he's the king. I don't know. Maybe just me. And oh my gosh, unlike Wattpad, you can't read other people's comments. in this one, but you could read other people's comments and read Addict. So if you're someone who likes to read other people's opinions, maybe read Addict is better for you than Galatea, by the way. But essentially, in her getting picked up to go to the palace, she gets in the limo with her friend Sophia, and Sophia in the car basically tells her, you can reject him or accept him as your mate. You just have to do it in front of a third party, and if you do, then your bond, if you reject him, will be broken, and if you accept him, it will enhance. You'll become a full werewolf, which is like with the full speed and the eyesight and the powers and the whatever. And yeah, so that happens, and she thinks she's gonna reject him because he wasn't there to pick her up, because he almost killed the love of her life from 3 days ago, and all these reasons to her are reason enough to hate this man that she has not had one single conversation with, and ran away from the moment that she found out was her mate. I can't. They get to the palace, and when they get to the palace, he's not waiting in front of the palace to greet her, which upsets her again. And basically, they unpack the car, they bring her stuff to his floor. He has a whole floor to himself because he's the king. She goes up the stairs to where his bedroom is, and he is not there. But guess who's in there? Naked. Savannah. Savannah's like, Adonis, when the door opened. No, Dimitri, because she can't call him Adonis anymore. She basically was in bed waiting to seduce him, to be with her. Again, power hungry, love her for that. Love that for her, not love her. And then basically Arya opens the door, sees her naked, gets upset. Is like, how dare he? Like, he's probably been sleeping with her for the past 2 days. He rejected her in front of you multiple times. Whatever. And essentially he comes up the stairs behind her, and he's like, what's going on? Like, very confused, rightfully so. And essentially she was like, she runs past him, and then it switches to his point of view. This book switches point of view sometimes, like twice, 3 times. And he tells Savannah, get out of my room. I rejected you multiple times. I want to be with my mate. Savannah makes a snarky comment about, like, well, your mate's not here now, because she, again, ran away from the situation again. And in that happening, she is running away, and she suddenly starts to feel faint, weak. And that's because apparently you can die without your mate if you haven't rejected them yet. She's running away. Basically, she starts feeling faint and weak because you can't be apart from your mate for so long, or else you feel faint and weak, essentially, before you've fully mated. Traditional werewolf books do that all the time. I wrote that at some point in my werewolf books. Very normal. But essentially, he catches up to her because he's faster, bigger wolf, you know, all the things. He catches her, and then he brings her back to the palace, and she's like, I'm weak. And he was like, you don't know. You can't be far away from your mate because X, Y, and Z reason. And then basically she's mad at him still, and he doesn't get a chance to explain himself yet. But when they get back to the palace, he gets the chance to be like, the reason that I wasn't there to greet you or pick you up is because my wolf, when you left, was very upset. So much so that they had to chain me up in the basement so I wouldn't hurt myself or anyone else. And she feels bad because of it. But essentially, they're on good terms now. And they get back up there. And Savannah, her name is Savannah? Yes. Savannah's still up there. And she's getting dressed so slowly. And in a fit of, like, the situation, she basically says, like, what are you doing? Get over it. He's my mate. And basically her saying that he's my mate is her accepting him as her mate. And so now they're mates. She's technically accepted him by saying that in front of Savannah. They get on good terms, and throughout the book, it's mostly just like this kind of situation. He says you have to start your training, and she was like, I want to be a doctor, and he was like, okay, maybe we can find time for you to still be a doctor within your training schedule so you can still train. And she's shocked that he cares about what she wants for her future. Sure, bestie. And then he's like, you don't have to be so shocked that I care about you. And it's like, well, she also hasn't given you the chance to show that you're not a bad person. So that's also, I'm trying to think of like pivotal points that happen. There's not many. There's a lot of like, their relationship is very much like her running away and them chasing her down and then them coming back almost and then not having. They're interrupted by Evan. Poor Evan. This whole book, poor Evan. But essentially, one of the points that happens soon after is that there's a training day. In the training day, she just wore like shorts and a shirt and a sports bra. And I guess in the training, someone accidentally rips her shirt. And so she, to make him jealous, takes off her shirt. And she's like, it's fine, I have a sports bra on. And everyone else is like, we don't want to die for you to try to tease your mate or whatever. And essentially, he cancels training because he is so like, oh my gosh, sexual. She has a sports bra on. Wow. They go upstairs and essentially, again, interrupted by Evan. Hey, bestie, you have the worst timing. And then they go down for dinner. During dinner, talk, meet, like hang out with his friends. And then another day. They're just together. And then suddenly, in one of the days, she just collapses. She goes to see him in his office and basically like starts feeling very lightheaded, but doesn't tell him. And so she tries getting back to her room. She gets back to the room. She goes in the bathroom. She's throwing up. She's passing out. And he like runs into the room. He's like, what's going on? And she's in the bathroom with the door locked. So he breaks the door down. He sees her about to pass out. Takes her to the doctor. And she passes out. And he goes into a fit of rage. When she wakes up, she basically is in the hospital, in the house. And he's not there, which does make her sad because he's not there. And essentially the doctor tells her the reason that she passed out was because she accelerated her shifting process to being like the full super wolf. Her body was not ready for it. She wasn't eating enough. So hence she passed out. And then basically she asks where her mate is, essentially Adonis. And they're like, about that. And essentially what happened was after she passed out, his wolf took over because his wolf thought that she was dying and wouldn't let her go. And so basically he had to be tied up again in the dungeon-y thing that he was tied up in, like in the beginning of the book when she left the first time. And so she decided she wasn't going to stay at the hospital, and she goes to find him. And when she finds him, she sees that he's basically his wolf, so had to get his wolf to transform back into him and be like, see, I'm okay, blah, blah, blah. And then unchain him, and then lovey-dovey, we're back to couple vibes. Okay? Great. And I think at this point, they're in the room, coupling it up, and don't know because they are a couple who can wait, unlike apparently every other couple. It's like immediate. For them, it's like they actually like take their time. And essentially there's a knock on the door. It's Evan again, ruining the moment. Evan, bro, not your finest every time. And he calls them down for dinner, and also that her cousin, who is Evan's mate, because she had two cousins, one mated with Carter and the other mated with Evan. Basically she had arrived, and so her cousin was there too, which is exciting for her. They all go down. They have dinner. They finish dinner, and then he says, I'm gonna go work in my office for the rest of the night, finish all the documents, so that way we can like spend the whole day together essentially. So they're gonna do work overnight. And then she's like, okay, sure. They go up. The guys get up, and the guys go to the study, and all the girls go back to their rooms to go to sleep. And She tried staying up a little bit, and then she couldn't, so she went to bed. And when she wakes up, there is a child above her bed. And remember, because he wasn't there all night. But the thing is, like, she didn't wake up, and she was, like, distraught, so she screamed. She found him, and then she brought him back. She was traumatized, and essentially basically, since she was traumatized, he, like, helps her. He, like, bathed her and, like, everything, trying to make sure she was okay. They moved to another room away from the deceased, and basically we're trying to find the girl's parents to be like, hey, your child is so in that, he decides, like, hey, can you go spend time with your cousin while we figure this out? And she doesn't want to leave him, essentially. So what they do is they spend the whole day together, and then the next day he's like, please, like, we found the family's on their way, but we don't know what they'll do when they find out that their daughter, we were the one to find her, essentially. So spend the day with your cousin, and we'll try to figure out what's going on. She gets there. She and her cousin are hanging out. There's a knock on the door. She turns around, opens the door, no one's at the door. She turns back around, and there's a guy with basically holding her cousin at knife point because they think that the cousin is the queen. How do you not even know what the queen looks like? Bro, you had one job. Essentially, that makes her wolf very angry, so much so that she almost shifts to save her cousin, kills the guy, jumps out of the window, runs to, not attack her cousin as she's transforming, and Adonis chases her down because their whole thing is, like, the whole chase thing. He chases her, and then they go back, and then they, like, almost, and then Evan, unfortunate for Evan, always knocks on the door. But essentially, that happens again. They go back to the room. Then Evan comes to the room. He's like, it's always me. And he's like, it's time for dinner. Just come down for dinner. So they go down, essentially, and they talk about what's been going on, essentially, with, like, the almost cousin, the deceased child, all these things. And then Arya basically says, can I talk to the deceased girl's parents? Maybe they're scared of you because, you're the king, and, like, that's very intimidating. Maybe they'll talk to me. And he doesn't really like that idea. But as they have this discussion, there's a knock on the door, and it's the mother of the deceased girl, and she's like, can I talk to the queen alone? And before he can say anything, she takes her out. They go out, they talk, and of course he couldn't just fully listen to her, so he barges in, and he is like, tell me what you know, blah 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 blah. And all the lady really knew to say was, the person who did this has a scar across his face, and he told my husband that if my husband didn't drug the queen, then they would pay back by taking our daughter. And she said that she found him really sketchy. She told her husband to say no, but her husband didn't say no, and actually went to the palace to try and actually execute that, but didn't put all the poison in it because, again, they didn't know who they were poisoning, because they thought they would just be poisoning a prisoner, which was like, why would someone send you to poison a prisoner? Well, actually, no, it makes sense in terms of, like, wars and, like, other alphas and stuff, but still, he didn't put all the poison in it, and then that's why she couldn't wake up when the deceased girl was being placed above her bed, basically. With that information, scar across her face is at least a very prominent way to figure out who it is, because they said it was someone in the palace. And all the people are in the room, all of our main characters. We got Luke and Sophia, we got Evan and Naya is the cousin's name. We have Leah and Gabe, and then we have Adonis and Arya. And basically, he reveals this information, and Luke knows who it is, but doesn't want Arya to know who it is. And, like, to relieve the tension, she like made a joke or something, and then Evan made a joke, and then Luke was basically saying like, you're spoiled, you're selfish, blah blah blah. Sir, you aren't even like beta. You are a warrior, sir. Keep your mouth shut. And essentially, it like she was like, she felt really bad, and she's like, I'm sorry. And then basically Adonis is like, no, you don't have to be sorry because you are the queen. He should be sorry for talking to his queen like that. He should never talk to you like that. No one's doing this full argument. But essentially, the reason he is acting like that is because the person with the scar on their face is his brother, who has basically been going crazy and was in the dungeons for the past like 8 years or whatever. And he didn't want people to know it was his brother that was in the dungeons, and that's why he didn't want Adonis to tell her, and that's why he went off on her when she was like making a joke and asking who it was. Real mature, I know. But essentially they call the dungeons and they're like, can you go check his cell? And checking his cell, he's not there. Good. So basically, he gets really mad, Adonis, and he like leaves, pissed. After he leaves, she said it's better to give him some space in this moment. True. But basically, no, he doesn't leave in this moment. Oops, sorry. I jumped way too far forward. Basically, he's like, everyone keep your mates close because we don't know what he can do because he's a madman, essentially. And they all go back up to their rooms to go to bed. And when they get back, the mother, who basically revealed that information about who the murderer was, is deceased. In the balcony of their bedroom, essentially. Scream. I guess we're gonna move rooms again. Room number 3. I don't think they move rooms this time because she's not in the room. Like, she's outside the room at least, but it's still, you know. But yeah, basically he's like, we need to train. Like, you need to train. Like, train hard. And so they go through training montages, and then I think, is this one they have? No, they still don't. No. This is another interrupted by Evan moment. Poor Evan. But in this interruption, it was basically that Savannah's uncle had arrived, and her uncle is basically like, you need to marry my niece, essentially. And Arya did not like that. So Arya basically insulted him, and it was like, I never use my title as a queen because I don't like the title, but I am going to finally use it, and I'm going to kick you out of our house, essentially. And then Savannah comes down the stairs. Savannah's like, uncle, what's going on? Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, you're also being kicked out. Bye. And Adonis and Arya leave because the situation is handled, and Savannah and her uncle get kicked out. That's it. That's that. And then just like more tense weeks go by, nothing happens, but they know who the potential killer is, but they don't know where he is. And in that, I think there's this whole moment where like Luke is losing it because, you know, it's his brother, he's 10, so he keeps arguing with his girlfriend, his maid Sophia, so much so that she leaves the palace to go back to their home, their original pack, with Hunter, that original pack, Carter and Hunter. And he's heartbroken, and so basically Arya's like, you need to come back. She's like, I'll come back next week. You all see where this is going. So the week passes, and it's like the day she's supposed to come back. They get a call from the villain. His name is Bradley, so I can't take it seriously, but his name is Bradley. And he calls, and he's basically just like, he threatens them, and Sophia's still not back with no one. And me knowing werewolf books and where they're going, I'm like, Sophia's gonna get kidnapped, she's gonna get murdered, something's gonna happen with Sophia. And unsurprisingly, but she gets taken by Bradley. So basically Bradley and his rogue tag of people attack Carter's pack so that way they can get Sophia, and after they get Sophia they call the palace again and they're like, we have your, also that's your brother's mate, that's disrespectful on another level. We have Sophia, and if you don't give us the queen, we're gonna. So basically they go to the palace, he shows that Sophia's alive to like prove that she's alive, and then the second phase is like, you need to give us your queen, Arya, so I can kill so I can kill her, and then you will die because your mate dies, and you'll be so heartbroken that you will die, or you'll lose the throne because you don't have a mate, and then I, Bradley, will become the king. And that made no sense to me. His plan did not make sense. Also, to thicken the plot, the council are threatening to kick Adonis off the throne if he doesn't find the murderer within a week and like execute him, and throne his brother Damien, who lives in the UK, who's actually visiting the palace right now, so coincidental, and give it to his brother who doesn't want to be king. He also has a sister. She's brought in for like a chapter and then she leaves, but he has a sister. And in that situation, like, again, sure council, dethrone the king. That makes so much sense. Give the castle and the kingdom to someone who doesn't want to be king. Totally makes sense. But essentially, after Bradley gives the ultimatum, he leaves and he's like, I'm gonna give you 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Oh yeah, by this point, Adonis and Arya have mated. Congratulations. Finally, no interruptions. Good for you. And Arya was like, I think the best plan is that you give me up for Sophia, because then he'll get really cocky. Bradley will get really cocky that he has me and he thinks he's won, that he will basically slip up and you'll be able to save me in time, and that's her plan. And everyone's like, you're a genius, blah blah blah. And I'm like, all she said was, let him take me, follow him, and get me back. But okay, genius plan. And so basically, as they're about to call him back to give her up, Bradley got too impatient. Alice takes her, returns Sophia, follows his word, true to his word, I guess. And when Arya wakes up, she is like somewhere she doesn't know, and then basically it's revealed that Savannah is the mate of Bradley, and Savannah this whole time has been working with Bradley. Shock, horror, oh my gosh. I hate myself. And she's basically like, kill her now before like Dimitri Adonis shows up to get her back. And she's basically like, she's trying to stall so that way you don't her, blah blah blah. And even though Savannah's saying all the right things, she and Bradley ended up just having a makeout session for no reason, none at all. And basically in that time frame, we're able to have Adonis, he reaches wherever they took Sophia, and then and he reaches where they took Sophia, where they took Arya. And as he enters to save her, dun dun dun, backstab of all backstabs, Gabe, the best friend, the second in command, is working with Bradley and Savannah. I didn't see it coming. I was like, how? Why? He treats you so well? I don't understand. Did not understand. And Arya's like shocked. She's like, what? Does your mate know? Does Leah know that you're blah blah blah? But this is the backstab of backstabs. Gabe, was still working with Adonis and was playing double agent to make Savannah and Bradley think that he hated Adonis, so they would let him know the plan, and he was also the one that drugged Arya as part of the plan, but Adonis knew that Arya was going to be drugged, but they didn't know that they were going to decease a child, hang the child over Arya's bed, and he didn't know that part. He just knew that they were going to drug her, and I was like, sketch. But basically, in that whole moment, the backstabs, who hurts who? Arya attacks Savannah, knocks her out, so they can take her back to the palace, to the dungeons, and then Gabe and Adonis do that to Bradley. They bring them back. When they get back, there's a battle going on between the Adonis's guards and Carter's pack and versus Bradley's ragtag rogue army, I guess, that they never introduced. He just has one, I guess. But when they get back, Sophia's like resting still, so she's like uninvolved in this, like she doesn't know there's a battle going on outside her window. But everyone else gets in the battle, and before they shift to get into the battle, Adonis tells Gabe, who I would not have let Gabe do this job, but just me, told Gabe to bring Savannah and Bradley to the dungeons, and they would handle this after they fight the battle. And I'm like, you have so much time for a conversation mid-battle? Sure, go ahead. And then basically Arya saves Carter from almost dying in the battle. Blah, 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 battle, they win. Clap, 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 clap. And then they go to the dungeons. On their way to the dungeons, a council member is like, you are going to be dethroned. And I'm like, read the room. Like, you haven't found her. So read the room. And she goes on, and basically Arya goes off on him and is like, you can't dethrone him. We're actually going to the dungeon right now to execute him. And then they rip up the councilman's like treaty about this situation, and then they like peace out, and he was so confused. But yeah, honestly, good for them, because like, sir, you just saw a war. You didn't join to fight and protect people. You came even though they were trying to protect the people in this battle and trying to like dethrone him still. No. So basically they like make fun of him, they rip up the treaty, and they're like, bye. And then they go to the dungeons, and in the dungeons, they're like, Bradley's still very confident for some reason, even though his anyone who could rescue him is dead or in the dungeons. His entire plan has backfired. Still somehow confident. And his plan ends up being to make Adonis angry enough to take him out of the chains by trying to attack him. But Arya sees this coming, stops Adonis before he does that, and threatens to kill Savannah, Bradley's mate. And Bradley's like, she's not gonna do it. I don't think she's gonna do it. Savannah, knowing good and well she's gonna do it, is like screaming, Bradley, help me, blah 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 blah. And he's like, she's not gonna do it, she's not gonna do it. And then Arya rips Savannah's head off her body, and I was deceased. I was like, Bradley, bro. But essentially then they're like, we're gonna execute Bradley tomorrow. So for the night, leave Savannah's head in his dungeon and her body on the other side, so he can just stare at his dead mate, for the last night of his life. Honestly, that's a good punishment, but still, like, wow. And essentially after that, they all go upstairs. When they get upstairs, Arya and Adonis go to have fun, and guess who interrupts them again? Poor Evan. Justice for this man. Basically, Evan interrupts them because he's like, there's a situation going on downstairs. And me being me, I'm like, oh, it's probably Bradley. He probably escaped. You know, he's probably like feral with anger. No, they bring back Hunter. And basically, Hunter is threatening to Carter's mate. First and foremost, disrespectful. He made you his beta. Disrespectful. I digress. He's threatening to Carter's mate unless Arya mates with him, but Arya's already mated with her mate, but he was like, it doesn't matter, I love her, she loves me. And she's like, what? She's like, when what? And basically she devises a plan, which Donis is not like, and obviously they don't have time to talk about this, so she just starts doing it, which is being like, okay, let go of my cousin, and like, we can talk about this. We can go back together. I love you too, which is upsetting to Adonis, but like also, sir, she's trying to save her family. You should know this. And in her doing that, it's enough of a distraction for Hunter to like slowly let go of Naya. Naya basically like takes the knife out of his hand and goes to her mate, and then they take him down. He has a bomb, you know what I'm saying, on his chest as well, which, you know, we should be careful of. And basically they're like, they get him, but and they give him like a whole plot of like, I guess his mate, she was married, had a child with someone else, and he did not know. And so basically he one day followed her when she left the pack to go do something, and he basically, with a super wolf hearing, heard her talking to her husband, being like she's gonna reject him, like reject Hunter to go back to her son and her husband, which honestly fair. Like, you had a whole husband and child. You could have just told him that instead of dragging him along for like 4 years, but go off, sis. Also, it was never explained why she did that. That didn't make sense. Like, why would you do that? I digress. But essentially, in that happening, he barged in, he rejected her, and she was very happy about the rejection because, again, she got to stay with her husband and her child. And because that happened, he was so heartbroken. So he, in my mind, is like, oh, I'll just go back to my second option. Okay. And that's why he tried to get back with Arya in the most aggressive way ever. And then he was like, he's like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me, blah, 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 blah. I think I should step down as beta because I just tried to kill the alpha's mate. And then they're like, no, you know, we're gonna give you some few weeks off, travel the world. Maybe you'll find the love of your life in a few weeks and it'll be fine. But you can stay beta. And I was like, in this economy? Okay. And essentially that's resolved suddenly, magically. The next day, again, Arya's family's there, so they have breakfast with Arya's family. Everyone's with their mates, everyone's happy, and then Bradley, good, and then that's really all they say happens, and then they skip forward to just like the youth, like not the parents, like again the main cast of Arya and Adonis, and do I have to go through the names again? Leah and Gabe, Naya and Evan, Luke and Sophia hanging out, and then apparently Leah, Gabe's mate, is pregnant. They're all like, yay, yay, yay. They all talk about, do they want kids, and everyone being like, I want a boy, I want a girl, I want multiple kids, I want one kid. And the book ends, and then they're like, book 2 is gonna be about Savannah, and I said, no thanks. There's a book 3, but I can't access book 3 because the way these apps are now working is all the books are in one. So like book 1 is like the first 38, 39 chapters. Book 2 is the next like 39 to 60 something chapters, and then book 3 is after that. So you can't see who book 3 is about, essentially. And I don't want to read the Savannah book, and I can't skip the Savannah book. Like, I'd have to read the Savannah book to see if book 3 is something that I would want to read. And I don't want to read about Savannah. I don't like Savannah. I think I made it clear that I didn't like Savannah. So why do you think we want to read a whole 30 something chapters about Savannah? No. But book 1 was 640 credits. Book 2 is 640 credits, and then book 3 is 1,250 credits. You're kidding. So yeah, I'm not continuing to book 2 because I don't want to read a book about Savannah as they try to redeem her. I don't care. But yeah, so that was my GALATEA experience. I would say I really enjoyed the experience of GALATEA more so than I did of Readdict, but I do not want to spend money to read books when I can literally go buy books. Like, for those of you who new to my channel, I'll show you my bookshelf tour somewhere. I'll link it. Avid reader, love books. I recently got Audible last year in like 2021, and have been doing a lot more Audible reading recently, but and I have a lot of Kindle books as well. So like for me, I rather spend my money on published books, even if they're self-published books through Amazon where I can support the authors directly or more so directly. I'd rather do that rather than reading through these apps that require me to pay $70 a year or like $18 just to read like 30 chapters of a book. Like, in my opinion, I'd rather just spend the $20 on a book, have that book forever, not have to have the app on my phone just dwindling and living in the background. Personally, I think of the two, the one that I would try to use again. See, I like the experience of GALATEA more. Like, I like the audio background. I like the kind of more involved version with the GALATEA, but my issue with GALATEA is the stipulations in the pricing. But I think if you're someone who's looking for more of a financially viable option, I think Readdict is the better option. But if you're okay with spending money on like basically $17, $18 to read 30 chapters of a book, then GALATEA is a good option because GALATEA is more immersive and it's really fun. But that's kind of like my thoughts on the app. If there's another app you want me to try out, I know there's a lot. I've recently been getting apps for Dream Me, which scares me. I can try that one next if you guys are interested. But yeah, if you guys like today's video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm so sorry that these videos are so long. I just talk to myself for hours at a time. But yeah, I will see you all in the next one. Bye.